This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
The Stick. However I may shudder at the memory and shrink again in grief, let me begin. Virgil, Aeneid. The broken scrap of wood doesn't look like much. 10 inches long and 2 wide, squared, its patina of brick-red paint abraded and faded. But like Proust's Madeleine, it evokes a past. I'm surprised to find so small a thing among the mammoth mounds of shattered rock on this north shore of Spirit Lake. Reading clues in the landscape, the geologist's eye sees the stick had come in a colossal wave. Spirit Lake hurled hundreds of feet above a level it had lain 400 years. These rocky mounds had been the top of Mount St. Helens, 6 miles south and a mile higher. The gigantic mass crashing through the lake had ousted the water. Gray grains shot into the stick, hint of other brutish violence. The stick evokes a deeper past. It's come a mile, a splinter off a great lodge that had stood by the lake 40 years. In it I'd sipped beer with 83-year-old owner Harry Truman, as he told of decades past. Over on that south shore, and here on the north, a damp forest of 120-foot firs had stood for centuries. Now the basin is treeless, a sun-blasted desert. The landscape suggests Mars. The past is vanished. Or is it entirely so? 2.5 weeks after Mount St. Helens cataclysm, I crossed the Cascades to resume work at the volcano. The front page of Seattle's Post-Intelligencer tells how a man and woman speeding down the Spirit Lake Highway barely outran a hot ash cloud. I meet them in a Seattle bar, a noisy Friday evening. Soon I know no geologist scrutinizing the deposits could glean what they had witnessed, being almost in the eruption. Might this and other stories reveal this volcano's violence? Reveal what could happen at many a volcano? And so I interviewed several, then many, then hundreds of witnesses, recording what they saw and heard and felt those brutal minutes of May 1980. Scientists come from around the world. I bring 4 Italian volcanologists to a view of 20 square miles of flattened forest. They stand too awed to speak. Had this been Vesuvius, these million dead would not be trees, but people. The 1980 interviews aided science. Arranging material 2 decades later for popular reading, I fished again for these witnesses, then many others. Some I found only after years. One I queried deep in a prison. A few I found too late, demented or dying. Through people we see the weeks of crisis in spring 1980. Their words take us through the May 18 eruption in exquisite fidelity. What they saw, heard, and felt. The timing, the pace, and sequence of events. But to reveal the cataclysm, the adventures themselves must be in order. My task resembles Stephen Ambrose's telling World War II through soldiers. I let my characters speak for themselves. They were there. I wasn't. They saw with their own eyes. They speak with an authenticity no one else can match. Like survivors of firebombed war cities, Mount St. Helens witnesses lose family or friends. Some won't talk, not to a stranger. One burned victim refuses an interview for 18.5 years. Another speaks after 20. Helicopter pilots inured to blood in Vietnam choke as they tell of Mount St. Helens. During interviews, I pause while a 49-year-old man weeps over a friend lost 23 years ago. A lady over her young husband killed 24 years ago. An old man over his son's demise 25 years ago. We may shrink in grief, but let us begin. The interviews stretched across more than 3 decades. Meanwhile, as a geologist, I've documented the eruption's effects, published reports, collaborated with others. I quiz witnesses, knowing the cataclysm's geography, details, and timing. First-person stories anchor this book. Narrative parts, too, stem from interviews, though based also in 1980 notes, diaries, logbooks, photographs, maps. Parts of backstory draw from witnesses' earlier memories. Some dates and details draw from newspaper or TV or radio tapes of reporters I interview. Reconstructed dialogue stems from witnesses' memories.